Dubai Financial Services Authority has been doing exactly that, having a look at the enforcement actions, the warnings and the fines that they have issued this year. Very pleased to be joined in the studio by the DFSA Head of Enforcement, Patrick Meaney. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning, Randy.
So I've got your numbers and I'm very excited about you putting them in context for us, because I was all prepared to write an opener for you saying the DFSA's had a busy year cracking down on people. And while you are absolutely cracking down on companies doing the wrong thing, 8 enforcement actions doesn't sound like many people doing things wrong. Put that in context for me.
The firms that we authorise and supervise in the Dubai International Financial Centre are well behaved. In most of our firms, the vast majority of our firms play by the rules. And because I think we have an active and robust enforcement program is the reason why we have generally compliant firms who follow the rules, because they understand that if they don't, they're going to get caught and there's going to be a consequence. And particularly if you look at what we've done this year, actually our fine numbers against individuals are higher than they are against firms. And that's important in terms of driving the right behaviours, because individuals care more about sanctions than firms in some respects. Firms, sometimes it's a cost of doing business, whereas for individuals, if you're going to fine them, but particularly if you're going to ban them and take them out of the industry, that can be career destroying. And so then other people look at that and they go, there but for the grace of God go I, and that really then drives compliant behaviour.
Yeah, those numbers: $1.3 million in fines on individuals, $1.2 million on firms, companies, and a $1 million fine. So the bulk of those individuals on one former relationship manager.
That's right. So Mr. Giorgio was a relationship manager at a Swiss private bank, and what he was doing was he was facilitating layering by his clients. And layering is a money laundering practice whereby you create the appearance of the change in beneficial ownership without actually any change in beneficial ownership. And Mr. Giorgio knew this. He knew that the people he was taking instructions from were not the people who were listed as the UBO, that is the ultimate beneficial owner of the firm. So he knew that there was no change, and he then misled his compliance function about what was going on in order to allow that to happen. And the reason why the size of the fine against Mr. Giorgio is so large, it's almost $1 million, is because he generated quite a lot of bonuses from that. And so it's very important from a deterrence point of view, not only to deprive him of those ill-gotten gains, if you like, but also to have a multiplier on that, so that you get the message that not only you're going to lose the benefit, but you're going to have to pay more than that in terms of fines.
Right, because that's the big thing with setting fines, don't you? They have to be a deterrent. 1.2 million on companies. Again, doesn't sound humongously high. No, it wasn't. I mean, I think that reflects that overall the size of the types of firms we were taking action against were relatively small, and the misconduct at the end of the day was not the most serious. So I think this year probably it hasn't been as bad as previous years, and so that hopefully is a sign that we're seeing an improvement in conduct. So we haven't seen some of the big matters that we saw going back 3 or 4 years with Abraj, and then some of the other matters we've taken action in relation to in 2021-22. Which is interesting, because the DIFC, so the amount of people who are under your jurisdiction, has been rising quite incredibly. People are trying to get a seat.
Absolutely. So we saw a 22% increase in the number of firms between the first half of 2023 and the first half of 2024, 62% increase in the number of wealth management firms being authorised by us. And I think that just reflects the fact that the DFSA is considered to be a good regulator, that we have a high standard of regulation. We require high standards of integrity within our firms and authorised individuals and the firms the individuals operating with those firms. And so I think that then attracts investors, it attracts users of financial services, and that in turn then attracts the firms, because the firms realise that the DFSA badge is worth something. Which goes to one of the actions we took this year, which is quite interesting, which is the one against VDAS. And it was a relatively small fine. It was $100,000. But for that firm, it was a lot of money. And what that firm was doing was it was one of those little call centre shops, so making unsolicited calls, cold calls, to try and sell financial products. And it wasn't a scam per se, but what they were doing was they were pressuring people into entering into FX, so foreign exchange CFDs, so leveraged products. Those sort of, and with those financial products, you churn them over very quickly. You lose your money very fast. And what they were doing is they were using the DFSA badge to try and attract people. They were saying this firm is DFSA authorised, but the firm that they were promoting was not DFSA authorised at all, and it had very high levels of leverage and was engaged in some very unsavoury practices. But they used the fact that there was a related company which had a DFSA authorisation. So it's a type of bait and switch, if you like. So they say, come, and this firm is authorised by the DFSA, you can trust it, and then they send them to a much less reputable firm, and then those clients lose their money. And then they come and complain to us, and they say, oh, look, we went to this DFSA authorised firm, and then we go, well, no, actually, sorry, if you look at your contract's with this other firm, you've been tricked. And so we thought it was very important to send the message that that is unacceptable and to take action against one of these firms for this sort of behaviour.
You mentioned scams, and as well as the 8 actions that the enforcement actions that you've put out this year, you've put out nearly 24 scam alerts. Are those scams that are using the DIFC or the DFSA name from outside, or are they actually coming from within?
So, very few of them. So, the overwhelming majority have nothing to do with the DIFC, with the DFSA, or even weren't similar to the VDAS situation. Most of them are just straight out-and-out scams. They happen to people in Dubai, and then they go, who are we going to complain to? They complain to us. But actually, it's not us. It's not our firm. But what we have seen a lot of, and this is partly a result of AI, impersonation. So we're seeing a lot of impersonation of the DFSA, of DFSA individuals. I've been impersonated, and also of DFSA authorised firms.
You've been impersonated?
I've been impersonated, yes.
How so?
So what happens is that these are advance fee scams. And so with an advance fee scam, what they're doing is they're trying to say, look, you're going to get a whole lot of money, but before you do so, you have to pay this fee or some sort of upfront fee. And what they do is to give that credibility, they create fake websites, they create fake documents, and they say, okay, this gives credibility to our scam. So this makes people believe actually it's legitimate. And so that's what they're doing. And we're seeing it all the time. And they're getting so much better at it because of AI, unfortunately. And so this has just blown up now. So what we saw is a 4-fold increase in scam-related complaints between 2022 and 23, and so far this year we've had more complaints relating to scams than we had last year. But as I say, they're not scams which are happening in the DFSA or in the DFSA's jurisdiction, but they do sometimes involve impersonation of DFSA authorised firms, the DFSA or DFSA personnel.
A man who is making sure that scams don't go too deep, Patrick Meaney, Head of Enforcement at the Dubai Financial Services Authority, by popular demand, is staying in the studio with us this morning. Morning, Patrick.
Morning, Brandy.
They've been counting the number of enforcements and warnings and fines that they've issued this year out of the DFSA, that is the authority body at the DIFC. 24 scam alerts. And we've kept Patrick because he was telling us that AI is playing a bigger and bigger role in the scams that you're seeing.
That's right. So if you go back, I mean, scams have been around for a long time. They've had various guises. But it used to be the case that one of the ways you could spot a scam was spelling errors, poor grammar, poor formatting on a document. And AI has made it much easier for scammers in countries where English may not be the native language or the first language to create very, very plausible English language documents and to format them in a way which looks believable, to take logos and things like that and embed them in documents which makes them look legitimate. And it gives an air of credibility to the story that they're telling to make the scam work.
And they're claiming to be from real people, including yourself.
That's correct. So it's quite a number of times the DFSA has been impersonated as a way to make an advance fee scam work, to say, look, you have to pay this fee because the DFSA has mandated it. And here is the document or whatever which mandates it, and then they'll put a signature of someone from the organisation, a senior person in the organisation, and quite a number of times they've used me. And in fact, I got an email the other day from someone saying, you are telling us that we have to pay this fee for this purpose. Is that right? And I said, no, it's a scam. Do not pay the money. And then immediately I got an email back saying thank you. So yes, it's very, very common now, unfortunately.
So how do you catch this? Is it purely shoe leather? Is it people on a one-on-one basis sending you guys stuff to say, you know, I've been ripped off with this, or I've seen this and it looks suspicious? Or how can you involve tech to crack down and keep up?
So generally it's from complaints. And I think, as I indicated earlier, most of this the overwhelming majority, 99.9% of this activity is not happening in the DIFC. It's happening outside. And we are just the ones who are being told about it, either because we've been impersonated or a firm's been impersonated, or simply because we are the authority that people think of when something happens and they go, okay, I'm in Dubai, I need to complain about this, I need someone to help me. DFSA has a complaints hotline, we'll send the complaint to the DFSA. So that's generally how we find out about it. We do surveillance within the DIFC looking for unauthorised activity, and it's often the case that with unauthorised activities there may be a fraudulent element involved as well. But generally the scams, they just drop into our lap through the complaints hotline. And as I say, most of them we don't have jurisdiction over. But if there is an impersonation involving DFSA firms or us, then we will issue an alert just to let people know, okay, don't be fooled by this. Do you just issue an alert? Are you able to go after any of these scammers, or is that just whack-a-mole? That is whack-a-mole, and so this is a global problem. And I'm on an international organisation, the International Organisation of Securities Commissions. Committee 4 is the one which deals with enforcement, and scams is a perennial focus of the committee, and we are looking to do some international coordination to try and take action to at least sort of reduce the number, because everybody realises how difficult it is to actually catch these scammers, because they're in the ether and they're across jurisdictions and they move very fast and they can be very difficult to pin down. So we've got crypto scams as well. Yes. You guys are going to have to keep up on the latest in order to keep up on top of those, surely? So once again, that's mostly going on outside our jurisdiction, so it's not something that we've seen. So we don't see firms in the DIFC engaging in that activity themselves, and so that's not something we've had to deal with. But once again, on an international level, it is something which various authorities around the world are working very hard on. Are we in deepfake territory yet? Not quite yet, but it's not far away. I do fear that will be used, you do hear about deepfake being used for other sorts of scams, not necessarily financial scams. Is this just the price of success, Patrick? That as Dubai's reputation grows, people are going to use the name of the DFSA and the DIFC for scams? Partly, although I suspect that it's happening with all sorts of authorities all over the world. I don't think it's unique to us. I think that sort of impersonation is happening in all sorts of jurisdictions. Right, and the DFSA is on it. 24 scam alerts this year, as well as those enforcement actions and the fines that they have issued. Patrick, thank you very much for staying with us and staying for us longer than you expected to. No problem, Brandy. Happy to come on. Let's find out how easy it's going to be for Patrick to get back to the DIFC, because you've got a little bit of an exhibition going on next door.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
With Yas Island Abu Dhabi. Stay at iconic hotels and play at record-breaking theme parks. Book now on yasisland.com.
Yeah, the calm before the storm down by the World Trade Center. Look, it's the Big Five going on. I'm not going to exaggerate. It's a busy event. It attracts an awful lot of people. So, as ever, take public transport if you can. Brandy's heading down there later. She will be doing that. But so far, in that kind of Zabil area, everything's flowing relatively freely right now. The traffic, as you would expect at this time, mainly focused southbound towards Dubai from the Northern Emirates. But no major incidents that I can see at the moment. Any updates, if it's safe, do please get in touch. You know the number, 04871 5500.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
Right, coming up next on the Business Breakfast, bit of competition for the DIFC. We will be looking at the regional HQ licences in Saudi. We haven't heard of a new RHQ licence in a moment, but is that in a while rather, until cities in the last couple of days. But is that just because it's no longer news? It is just business as normal. Alex Nichols is our Saudi expert this morning. He is a Saudi setup specialist at Astrolabs. He's going to tell us whether or not they're just still carrying on and we're not reporting on them, or whether the deadline has imposed some kind of calm in the scramble to get an RHQ.